Greetings and welcome, everyone. It's an all-you-can-geek movie cast. I'm one of the hosts, Jim Gash, joined by Mike Sneedy,
What's up?
Corey Feinsod,
Ahoy!
and Tony Korkanakis.
Yo, yo, yo.
Welcome, guys. Welcome, listeners and viewers. Guess what? We did our movies of the year last week, so check that out if you have not. That is over on YouTube. You can check it out. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. We are live on Twitch on Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock, though. We just did our games of the year, 2024, and we talked a little Switch, too. So go check out that episode if you have it on Twitch or over on YouTube. Both, it'll be available everywhere. So audio as well, wherever you get your audio podcasts. Regular movie cast, though, for this week. Next week will be our TV shows of the year. I have to double check my list. I think I've got it all done. But it'll be interesting to see what we get from each other. All right, guys, games. And not games. Movies.
No.
Jesus. Movies.
Force that.
So I will tell you guys, it's so backwards. I will tell you, last week I had the flu, and I had the flu on the podcast, and I made it through, and it slammed me Wednesday and Thursday. But I even mentioned it last week, I think, to you guys. I didn't mention it on the podcast, but I fell down this rabbit hole where I've discovered the angry video game nerd. Yeah, and I just fell down the rabbit hole of just watching. There's so much content because he's been around for so long, and I just fell down the rabbit hole of watching that content. And it's great. It's really good stuff. I enjoy his videos. I mean, some of them are a little over the top, but it is what it is. It reminds me of the older games I used to play, which is great. But the funniest thing I want to talk about on here that I've watched, nothing really brand new, because of the Indiana Jones game, which is on our list, by the way. You should go back and check that out for Games of the Year. I really got into wanting to watch. I wanted to give Crystal Skull another chance. And let me tell you all right now, I am adamant about this. That is the worst piece of shit that you could ever watch. And Dial of Destiny is a far superior movie. The problem with Dial of Destiny is it was made last year, and it should have been made instead of Crystal Skull when that was made. Like, that's the Indiana Jones age we should have had for Dial of Destiny, which is a better story and a better film than what we got with the Crystal Skull, which is not an Indiana Jones movie. I'm sorry, it's not. It's just such garbage. And yeah, that's it.
I don't disagree with you. I don't give a shit about Indiana Jones. Like, it's like
I'm just saying, like, yeah, absolutely. It's so
like
frustrating.
Bond. Like, I just don't care. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
sure, if a Bond movie is really good, yeah, I'll go out and see it. If an Indiana Jones movie came out and was really good, I'd go see it. But it's just like, like Top Gun. Top Gun was perfect. Like, when I'm like, why are they making a sequel to Top Gun like 30 years later or whatever? It's like, holy shit, that movie is amazing. That movie of the year, stuff like that.
Again, don't forget how late Crystal Skull came out. It was well past Last Crusade, and that they just failed to close out the series. Like, it was just a bad movie.
Yeah,
It was bad overall.
You
disagree.
do this though. I don't understand why.
I just because of the game, and like I wanted to kind of just
You got suckered in.
I wanted to see if it would age the same. It's funny because on TV, Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade have been on, and I watched those, and those are
I just
fantastic.
remember the CG was terrible in Crystal Skull as well. Like,
Yes.
I just don't remember ever seeing any good CG in
Wasn't
that.
there any like aliens or
dogs.
something?
Yeah,
right?
it was
Wasn't
aliens.
Yeah.
It is not like that's the thing. Like, it should be Nazis. The story should be the Nazis, and the Temple of Doom is an odd out, but it still felt like an Indiana Jones
I don't
film.
think it has to.
Crystal
be
Skull doesn't. See, the thing is, like, Crystal Skull doesn't feel like an Indiana Jones film. It doesn't. It just feels like a over-the-top spectacular film with CG and stuff. It doesn't work. It doesn't feel like he's not really like he's exploring, but it doesn't feel the same. Whereas these other films, and like Dial of Destiny has that vibe. It has the vibe. He's just too old at this point to do it. Like, you know what I mean? That's it. So that's really it for me, though, guys. You know, of what I've watched. But Mike.
Well, we mentioned it last week, but I did see right before we did our movies of the year, I saw Sonic 3.
Oh yeah.
So.
I mean,
yeah,
I can mention
it was
some I
on-
haven't seen it. Yeah.
I do think it's probably my favorite of the 3 Sonic movies, just because the least human stuff. It's mostly those characters and the Robotniks. I guess he's a human technically, but barely. So it was a lot of fun.
It's fun.
pretty
Definitely fun. Yeah. No, I saw that in the theaters too on the break, and Nosferatu, which I mentioned on the Moviecast last week as well for our of the years. A little disappointing in that one, but overhyped for me, I guess. Not overhyped, but just oversold. That's what it was. Oversold. Like, it's just not hyped. But cool. All right, Corey.
Well, so if I saw this last year, it would have been my surprise of the year. But the Wild Robot was
Oh, I heard that was good.
ridiculously
Yeah. I was
good.
talking to
It's like
somebody about
what?
that.
Yeah,
There's like, there's no reason for this thing to be as good as it was.
it's crazy.
And
Yeah.
it's like heartbreaking and heartwarming and like every emotion you can think of. And if you are at a certain age and if you have children, like I mentioned with Inside Out, it's like it's one of those things where it hits differently, but it's still something that's there for the kids they can enjoy. But as a parent or as an adult, like you don't even need to be a parent, but just as an adult going through life, it just hits so many emotions, and I recommend it to everyone.
Awesome. I've heard such good things about that.
Yeah, no, me
That
too.
was, yeah.
It was one of those things where I think it came out like right after Transformers 1, and it was
Mhm.
both of them came out when back to school season started. So, and I think they were both competing for the same audience.
Yeah.
So it was like kind of rough. Where
Yep.
It was like,
No, and that was this like Wild Robot or Transformers, boys. Transformers, of
yeah,
course.
exactly. It's like, oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Cool.
it's definitely not one to be missed. I think
Cool.
it has not like lessons, but it has like messages and like it just relatable things for
Yeah.
everyone because it just hits so like every
Resonant,
portion of
yeah.
life and
Feels
and
like an
things
old
and-
Pixar thing. I'm
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
a leap
yeah.
here. You know, like a
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful as well. It's like it just came out of nowhere and like it's just like what is this weird robot thing? Like is this Bastion
right.
from Overwatch? But no, it's
Bastion.
cool.
Got Bastion.
All right, Tony.
Did we get to talk about Squid Games season 2?
Oh.
No.
We haven't.
Probably
I've been
not.
I
holding
have seen
this.
that too.
I was like,
I haven't seen. I mean, I've seen that too. Sorry, but go on.
What?
I have
Weren't
seen
you
it, sorry.
spoiling
Yeah.
things on?
No, I've seen it. I'm sorry. I said I have seen it. I
yeah,
have
no.
seen it, yes.
So
Hmm.
Squid Games a couple weeks ago, but we got into the January. Our schedule is
Yeah, it's been a little
pretty
while.
much
Mhm.
cemented.
That's where I spaced
Yeah.
on it. But, go on.
But no, I mean it was fantastic in terms of like, hey, you have an original idea, and how can you iterate on that and change things up while still feeling familiar, kind of like a conversation we had on the Gamecast for Games of the Year, which I would recommend you guys to go listen to. But yeah, it was just really awesome. You could see that they had a bigger budget to work with a lot of the sequences and stuff like that. But the story, somehow, even though I knew going into this is like, yep, I'm prepared to get hurt again, right? I'm prepared to get hurt again. I still wind up being hurt, even though it's like, okay, don't get attached to any of these characters, Tony. Don't get attached to any of these characters because most of them are gonna die, if not all of them, right? And it's just like, shit. There were a couple. I'm not gonna name or hint, but like when some of them went out, I was like, what the fuck? Like I was like, like that too. I was like, oh come on, like you're doing so many of them dirty.
I think they managed to almost. They didn't quite one up the first season with those deaths, but it's just like you're like. I think some certain characters are like, okay, that impacted me a lot worse than it should have. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll even say like some of the ones that they made a lot of the character relationships I think a bit better, even though it's not with the main guy, but it's just like there's a pair of characters that like anytime there's stuff happening, I'm like nail biting. I'm like, oh god, and then there's the one episode with the merry-go-round or whatever it is. I'm like, like I can't handle this. Is too stressful. This is not good. I don't like this and stuff like that. So it's just really fun to watch. Fun, to
I
watch
mean, they did a
people-
great job of making you care about the characters.
did,
So when they
absolutely.
do die, it's like, oh shoot.
Yeah, they
And
look
even
smart.
characters that have a brief like appearance, like that had a significant impact on your the emotions that you have. It's like, oh, well, we know this character is here just to die, but like the impact that this character is having on your experience and the way that they go out or whatever is just it hits differently.
Yeah, it
And
does.
yeah, I one of my buddies was like, hot take, this is season 1. I was like, I don't think that's a hot take. I think there's merit to that. It's the unfortunate thing is it's not a full season, right? It's a cliffhanger ending.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a cliffhanger.
I will give you a preview of my list for next week. I will be talking more about this next week. It did make it someplace on my list, and I will talk about it next week.
Yeah.
But so I don't want to go into it now because it's tough to not spoil things because I messed that up a little bit with Tony. I didn't spoil it. I just
You didn't spoil it.
said
I was
wrong.
like, you set my expectations. Like, damn it. Like, okay.
Yeah. So, but I will talk about this next week. Overall, it's a fantastic season. Like I loved what they did with the season.
Yeah.
But never mind. I'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, I can't wait
So
for it.
I've-
And thankfully, we are getting the
Yes.
season 3 this year. It's not
This year.
It's not a
Thank
Spider-Verse thing where I'm like, We're still
Mm.
waiting.
Whenever.
We're still
They
waiting.
haven't even done the voices yet.
They
but
haven't even
still.
done the voice. I'm like, oh my god, we're not getting it this year. We're not getting it this year.
100% like helped me from like just being super angry because
Yeah.
I was like, oh, please don't tell me this is 3 years away. But yeah, so it's a great show though, so check it out, or give it a few months and wait a little bit, I guess, if you want to see it, because then you can carry over. But yeah, talk about it next week a little bit. So
yeah. And that's a big thing. And then secondary thing was the new season of Castlevania Nocturne drop, season 2.
yeah, I saw that came out. How is it?
Great. You know,
Awesome.
It's hard because you had such a good thing with that first season, and I think the chemistry between that main trio was just so good. It was hard to replicate with some of the characters in this new season. I think they got better than the first season of Nocturne was, but it still doesn't reach the heights that the original run did, which is unfortunate because Warren Ellis was involved in that, and he's a scumbag. But the animation, oh my god, that studio, they
so good.
can fucking cook, and I think they're the ones doing Devil May Cry. I believe.
I think so. I hope so.
Because I can't wait for that then, because
it fits perfect.
it is like they just know how to do that, like
They're
perfect.
working on something else,
Because
too.
it's not it's not Japanese animators, but it's done in a style reminiscent of anime. But it's like kind of the best of like West, but the best of East too, where you're just like getting these impressive choreography like fights with awesome looking animation, and you're just like, holy shit! And it's just like they can just mow down like all these vampires and demons and other monsters, and you're just like, holy shit, that's raw. That's awesome. Overall, it was really good. The thing was, the villain wasn't the best. I think the villain missed for me. And obviously, how can you compare to Dracula? Like, really? Like, that's just... You're not. But still worth watching, and I highly recommend it. There were some weird things that one of the studio people said that, like, please watch it this weekend, guys. Like, really, please watch it, because we're kind of just waiting to see if we're getting renewed or not. I'm like, usually you guys get renewed ahead of time, so, like... I don't know what that means, but whatever. It made number 10 on the top 10 shows this weekend, so I think that's a good sign.
That's good, yeah. I have to check it out still. So I'm trying to see what else they're working on, because I thought they were doing something else too. I can't remember what it was, but not just Devil May Cry. I thought they were doing one more thing, but I thought it was a video game show. But I don't know. All right, excuse me. Let's get into the box office real quick. I haven't done that in a while, because I will tell you that Moana 2 crossed 1 billion worldwide.
Good for Moana.
And how crazy is that?
Good for The Rock getting paid.
I mean, Moana 2. Like, I could not believe that movie was going to do well, let alone do a billion worldwide.
I thought it was sent to die.
Yeah. You know what's funny is, like... And the biggest gripe of that is there's no iconic songs. Like, like I said, my wife and my stepdaughter went and saw it. They loved it. They talked about it. They loved it. I have not heard a word about it since. You know what I mean? So it's like, but we used to, like, Moana, the first one, you can always hear about it later, but you don't hear anything about this afterwards. But apparently it's got to be something good, because it's $1 billion worldwide and just crossed it. So international 567, 444 domestic. Let's go into the actual weekend, though, which was, let's see, let me bring that up here real quick. Mufasa. Not a big box office this week. Mufasa, which is doing, how is that doing?
It sounds like it's doing well, because...
Ooh, it is doing very well. 591 worldwide. Yeah.
Is it ahead of Sonic?
I believe
definitely
so.
more than Sonic.
Yeah. Sonic's international is not great, isn't it?
Sonic...
Yeah, it's 200. Sonic Worldwide's 422, because its international's only at 203. Mufasa's at like 591. So yeah.
I don't want.
It came out the same weekend.
Fucking movie, man.
Yeah, and Sonic's a great film. As Mike said, I completely agree with you on that one. It's the second best one in the series for me, but it's a great film. Whereas Mufasa, I haven't heard anything about, but everybody's going to see it apparently. So
yeah, it's just another Avatar situation.
Must be. Yeah, nothing else really going on. One of them days, Wolfman opened at 10.9 million. Sonic was at 8.6. So.
Yeah,
all right, let's get some news.
Probably Captain America next month.
I was gonna say, I don't think there's really anything major until Cap's what, end of February or middle of February?
Valentine's Day.
I think.
Valentine's Day weekend. Yeah, that's
I
right.
get my tickets. All right, let's talk some news. Where are we here? A couple Star Wars things. Number one was there was the a rumor about Cal Kestis coming to a live action project that came out last week. That was from Daniel RPK, who is a very notable source for these things. He has mentioned a lot of things that have been accurate, or they have been. No examples exactly as to how this is cameo, large cameo, actual movie by themselves, but Cal
This
Kestis
is from the Jedi Survivor.
I'm just saying that from the video
Last
game Jedi Survivor.
And Fallen Order.
Fallen Order.
Wait, what's his name? What's the actor's name?
Al Monahan.
Monahan, I think it is Monahan. Yeah.
Kyle.
Kyle. Yeah. So interesting news for that. The second biggest one though
Is it
the
interesting?
bigger news.
Is it
What's that?
interesting?
I think it's interesting. I
Why
like
is
the
it
character a
interesting?
lot. Because I like the character a lot. I think as a Jedi,
Oh.
there's such a flawed Jedi, which is I think way more interesting than a
Jedi-
righteous Jedi.
The Jedi series of games is the only good Star Wars thing that's going right now. So that's why it's interesting.
Not only good. I mean, there's
No,
listen.
we just had Andor. We're getting
Let me
Andor
let me
this
tell you
year.
guys. Oh God, I forgot to mention that by the way. Skeleton Crew, guys. Skeleton Crew. I watched that whole series. It sucks to hear that it's not getting great viewership
I
because
thought you said it sucks.
no, that show is fantastic. Like I would. It's like it's Goonies in space. It's like you want to say it's a kid's show, but it reminds me of like remember the Clone Wars where it's like it works for adults too. That's what this is. Like
Yeah.
obviously there's the inept adults in the show that you're just like, but it was like Goonies. Remember like the Goonies adults?
Mhm.
You're like, okay, these guys they're useless, and the kids have to do the job, and that's basically what this is. I would highly recommend Skeleton Crew, and that's a great series, and it looks amazing. Like I mean, visually, like how did they screw up Obi-Wan as much as they did? Because this series looks fantastic. It looks like unbelievable how good this looks. And on a much smaller budget. Their budget's not
Yeah, I know.
huge on it. This is 115, which is high but not huge. But anyways,
So
So-
hold on. Back to Cal being like, what is interesting? Like we all
Okay,
know,
I
like
told
what
you.
he would show up, he'd say something profound, be like at a meaningful moment, like he'd probably save somebody or rescue something, and it's like, oh, cool. And they do the shots or whatever where it's like, oh, this is a serious character. Just like what we saw with Ahsoka, right? And I love Ahsoka, but like the way they fucking worship their own characters in this is just kind of like, I'm done with it. I'm done with it.
I think that
I think it'd be cool just to have a video game original character that is so ready made to be live action, just show up and be the full fledged version of himself.
because I think it's he's like again, it goes back to my statement of flawed Jedi. Like Ahsoka's not a flawed Jedi. She's actually like she's not a Jedi, but she's
No,
like
she's not a
the
Jedi.
most epitome but she's the example of what a Jedi should be.
Right.
And Cal is, I guess, more of an example, but he's a flawed. Like he's a, you know what I mean? Like he's not, and that's what he is. I mean, he's like he knows what he is. He's like, he's not really a Jedi as well, but he does a great job with what he's got. Essentially, I just like the character, and I
Well, that's
think
fine, but is that interesting? Like, what is interesting about that?
I mean it's another representation of what the Jedi should be, right? I mean, all you got is like the Council and Luke.
Dude, I'd be
You know what I
happy if I
mean?
never
So-
saw another Jedi again. I'd be happy.
I know you, but I think you like Cal. Like, have you played the Jedi games?
I played the first one, and it was fine.
I think you'd like. I
Then
just don't know
Vader
how you
shows
don't
up,
Cal.
as we all know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he shows up everywhere.
Everywhere,
But
not in
no,
Skeleton
I
Crew.
think it's interesting for Star Wars fans that enjoy the
I
game.
mean, sure.
and they
It's
get-
interesting for the fans. I'm just saying for a show, like, meh. All these
I mean,
shows are
I
just
will
becoming like
say-
they're worse than Marvel movies now in terms of just cameos. It's like, what the fuck is Ahsoka doing here? What the fuck is Luke doing here? What the fuck is Boba Fett
Watch-
doing here? Get the
Alright.
fuck out of these shows.
Watch Skeleton Crew.
Again, but what's
Just
the
watch
point
Skeleton Crew.
of a shared universe if that doesn't happen?
You could, but I know what Tony's saying. Tony's like,
We're gonna
want
get
a
into this
series.
again. We're gonna get into this because
we don't
it
have
takes
to.
place in the same
I know what you're saying.
like span of like what, a decade or two, where it's like all these stories, all these big things happen. It's like, how the fuck does that make sense? Like, none of it does, and it's not moving the story forward past the film. So I don't give a fuck about whatever Cal's doing. Like, how does Cal, whatever he's doing, affect the Star Wars canon?
The entire MCU took place in the course of 10 years. Is that a problem?
No, because we're not talking about a fucking 50-year fucking movie franchise.
Yes, but less movies, less content still than what was put out by Marvel in like
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah, and better content.
Well,
Oh, I think we can move on.
Yeah, we can move on.
All right.
Fuck Star Wars.
That next bit of Star. Well, I have to finish the Star Wars.
Oh, God
Ryan,
damn it.
Ryan Gosling in talks to star in Sean Levy's Levi's or Levi's movie, Star Wars movie, which has been in development for 2 years. It's getting into production now. Ryan Gosling. This is reported by Hollywood Reporter. Looks like he's cast. It's not officially official, but it's official. So
All right.
I can't believe
I think we'll
Dan's
find out
gonna
in
be a
couple years.
yeah, we'll
I
find
would.
out.
I don't really care about most Star Wars now anymore either, but I like the Survivor series, so just because they're good games, so that's why I'm interested.
Again, like I can't say enough about check out Skeleton Crew because it covers so many things that Tony would like. That I think you should.
No,
check it
I'm
out.
sure. Just like Andor, I'm sure. But like, it just, I can't get excited for it. At some point, if I'm bored, if I have nothing else to watch, sure. But that's not the case right now.
I wouldn't go out of your way, but I would definitely
Madam
say
Web or Skeleton
yeah.
Crew?
Yeah, Skeleton Crew, definitely. But all right, let's see what else we have in the news. Toxic Avenger reboot is actually happening finally. It's already done. It's been filmed since 2021. Apparently, it's coming to theaters finally, unrated. I saw.
Unrated? Is that
right-
allowed?
That's what I saw. I don't know how that's happening,
How?
but I did see that. That's what I saw. I was reading the article, not this article, but I read it as well on
I don't know who the
Twitter.
audience for this is.
I don't know what it is either, but
Is it like a
It's still
Phantoms
trauma,
event,
right?
or is it actually like a wide release?
I don't know. I don't think it's wide. You can't have that wide. You have to have it rated R at some point. But
Because like, I mean,
Yes.
it was weird. It was always weird to me because like I remember it having like a cartoony comic appeal for like a kid thing, but I remember trying to engage with it somehow. I forget if it was the original, I don't know, cartoon or comic or movie or whatever. But I was like, this is weird, and I didn't like watch it as a kid or whatever. I was just like, this is not for me. Like, I don't know what this is about. So like, it's weird. And even as an adult now, I'm just like, what? Who's this for?
yeah, so
For
I'm getting it from multiple
edu-
people saying that it's coming unrated in a wide release this year. I don't know how that's happening, but that is what's happening.
This is for those,
This is Peter Dinklage's movie, by the way, for those wondering.
people who in like the late '80s when that first movie came out were just into like garbage like films where like it's just like gratuitous and violent and like just dumb on purpose, like, and that's what Toxic Avenger was. So people who like that then, who are interested in coming back, are excited, I guess.
Well, I mean, good for them if that's a large
Again.
audience. Good for
Edgy Gen
them.
X.
All right, Sonic 4, March 2027 release date. A little different than Christmas, but it is coming,
Good for them.
which we knew. If you watch the Sonic 3 movie,
I'm
skip
curious.
to the credits.
I'm curious where they're gonna go now, because like maybe this is a hot take. I hope it's not, but like after Shadow, it's like fuck all of Sonic's friends, like just like what Silver
Tony knows
or
where
like
He already knows where they're going already.
like Silver. Like, does anybody
Oh,
want
yeah.
to see Amy? Like Big the cat? Like all these fuckers can go fuck off.
I think people do actually, man. I think people actually do.
I'm sure
of
the
them
Sonic
looks-
fans do, but like I'm saying, like so like the Venn diagram of like Sonic fans and like
Well, the
people,
thing
like,
is,
the audience for the movies, right? Like how
well,
big
the
is
audience
that
for the
overlap?
movies are like 10-year-old boys and younger and
Aria loves
10-year-old
it.
girls.
She's 12.
Oh,
Ari's 12.
No, I
I'm just
get
saying
that.
that's where it is.
Is
It's
sure
like in
you
that
think like
age group.
Silver the Hedgehog is
They-
cool though?
That age, I bet they think they are. These characters
mean,
are.
I will tell you that Ari is very interested in the next movie.
Hold on.
So,
All right. So you can spoil this for me. I don't know if
Yes.
Corey's good.
If you guys don't mind.
Is there like I know there's like 2 teasers at the after.
My,
so like
I mean, my theater blew up on the second.
Yeah.
really
Like,
interesting.
they were very happy with the second.
Who was it?
The second one? Well, the second teaser was just spoilers for those who haven't seen it. I apologize. First one was Amy with Mecha Sonics, and then the second one is Shadow surviving.
Yeah.
So
So Amy's
I
there.
missed the second one. I missed the second one with Arya, and that was a big mistake because she left. She's like, why did this? Why did he not come back? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, he's they don't. I mean, in my head, I'm like, they don't cast Keanu Reeves for nothing. But Amy was in the post credits. So when you're saying that,
And Metal Sonic, yeah, the Metal Sonic.
and Metal Sonic.
Okay, so like Metal Sonic.
People are very people were excited for that, but like it was like people love Shadow. I don't know.
No.
So it's
People
like,
love Shadow. But I'm saying after Shadow, like it goes like, all right, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Shadow, right? And then there's a steep drop off in terms of the Sonic
Sure.
friendly cast. I'm
I
sorry.
don't even know after that. You were naming names. I
No,
don't
I'm
know who
saying
they
like
are.
Big the Cat, like Amy,
who's the
No idea.
crocodile guy? There's a crocodile.
I only know
too.
I only know of Amy from the cartoon. That's how I know that character. That's it.
What Sonic CD, man? Come on.
Sonic Underground. I never played Sonic CD. I'm not a Sonic player.
don't
I
need
watched
to
Sonic
know
Underground,
Sonic. You
and
don't
she was in
play.
Underground. She was in
She's in,
Underground.
like, the
That's all I remember.
opening credits or whatever, cinematic cartoon.
But yeah, March 2027. Do you think to get Jim Carrey back?
I mean, I
I
think
don't
he's. I mean, I assume
Isn't
he
out.
does.
There
He
is an
says he
out.
likes money, whatever. Seems like it's a fun project for him to do. Like the thing is, since it's such a quick turnaround time, I think Sega just has to balance it and make it be like, hey, we can't let the budget creep out of control. We can't be like, hey, all of a sudden we need to triple the budget of this movie so we can get $1 billion Sonic. Like that's not happening. Like I think it's really like, hey, we can pump this out for about 120 million or whatever like that and get $500 million or close to $500 million. Like that's fine. Like just keep doing that. You don't have to,
Yeah.
go.
But
Like,
Jim Carrey's cost apparently is not.
yeah, I don't think it
astronomical.
is.
It's a
you know?
passion project for
Like I
him.
don't think.
Yeah, and they
like,
did give him an out in this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they gave him
He's
an
gonna
out in
come
the
back,
second
though.
one too, or the first one, or whatever.
He keeps saying he wants to come back. He loves the character.
Yeah, sure.
So.
Good for him. Good for everybody involved. Like I'm happy for Sonic fans, stuff like that.
Lastly, in the news, two things about Netflix: 19 million subscribers added to end 2024. However, today they announced price increases.
Yep.
So they have reached over 300 million subscribers worldwide, globally.
That's insane.
It's
That is
insane.
fucking insane.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. And they're increasing prices from it was $22.99, now it's $24.99 for the highest tier. The ad tier is going up from $6.99 to $7.99. That's a my tier. So I'm whatever. It's $1 for me. I'm like, that's okay. That's okay.
You're part of the problem then, Jim. It's okay
Yeah,
for
that's
$1 every year.
$1 okay. Because
Yeah,
the
and then
content's
all of
so
a
good.
sudden you're paying $20. You're like, that's okay. It was only $1 more.
No, I
Okay.
have a limit. Like $10 is where I start to question this thing. So I shouldn't have said
Really?
that. 'cause now they're gonna increase it,
$10?
Like, yeah, I think $10 is,
I don't know. I
is
still think.
You're
monthly. Then you start getting into the cancel it when you're not watching it kind of thing. They got
No,
me.
sure you can, but like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like I watched something big on Netflix every month this past year.
You might be right, but so I also, by the way, I'm terrible this week about. I was not feeling well last week. I watched Severance, the premiere, by the way, too. So
Jesus
I
Christ.
didn't
it's
get to see that
fantastic.
yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. Great show.
But yeah, I mean, so it's good. Netflix is growing. Stuff is growing. I'm sure the sports thing. There's a paragraph. I forget if I linked it or not, but like they talk about all the things that hit. They talk about Squid Game season 2 probably being the highest original content they've created. The NFL games on New Year's Day did phenomenally, and
Yeah.
It's
Tyson
Tyson
and
Logan Tyson,
whatever.
yeah,
Whatever's, yeah.
made
Logan?
huge.
No, the other guy.
Yeah.
Jake.
Whatever, piece of
Jake
shit,
Paul.
white guy, yeah,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah, one of the Pauls.
So it's unfortunate because, like, this is my holdout. It's like, yes, I don't have to do anything with sports packages at all. And I'm like, are they just going to roll the cost? It's like, yeah, they're just going to roll in the cost. Or at least for now. Who knows? Maybe they'll.
WWE.
I still think in a couple
There
years.
could be a live TV separate.
I think in a couple of years, that's how they're going to do it. Because, like, I think we're approaching that level where. I think in the average consumer mind, if we get too close to $30 or like $30, people start to bounce out, right? Where it's like, oh, that's a lot. Even though, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think 30 is too much to pay for all the content you get. But I think they'll be like, hey, 25, and then if you want that live act, like the live sports stuff, you got to pay an extra $5, $6, $7 as an add-on, right? Because not everybody's going to want that. So, we'll see.
Yep. All right, and that'll do it for this episode of the Moviecast, folks. We have gone through all the news. Once again, we are live on Twitch Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock. We're also on YouTube. If you don't watch these live broadcasts, if you're watching us on YouTube, give us a subscribe and a like, please. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you guys. Next week, TV shows of the year are coming up. Regular Gamecast coming up. Stay tuned for all of that stuff. We'll see you guys next week. We are out.